The ocean was black and endless, above. The stars blinked through clouds of smoke from the burning ship below. Silence swallowed everything. And in the deep water, a cage was sinking slowly. Inside the cage was a girl. She looked 16, but her eyes were older. Her skin had a soft blue glow, and small scales shimmered on her arms. Her breathing was shallow, and her body was shaking. She was cold, weak, and scared. Her hands were tied, her legs too. The cage was made of thick metal bars, locked tight. It was heavy, meant to sink without a trace. Like trash, like cargo that no one wanted, she had been thrown off the ship only minutes ago. A loud voice had called her excess cargo. The crew didn't even look at her face when they pushed the cage over the side. They just laughed and walked away. They thought she was useless, not worth feeding, so they threw her away as the cage sank deeper. Water rushed in from the small holes. It reached her waist, then her chest. She gasped. But there was no one to hear. The pressure pushed against her ears, and the cold bit into her skin. She looked up, but the surface was too far now. The light from the burning ship was fading. Her breath came faster, panic rising. She struggled against the ropes, but they were too tight. The cage groaned as it dropped, metal echoing through the sea. This was the end, she thought. She closed her eyes, and a tear floated in the water beside her. Then a flash, a red light moved through the darkness. It was far at first, like a spark, but it came closer, fast. She opened her eyes, confused. Another shape appeared, darker than the water, larger than any fish. A man. He wore a black diving suit, smooth and strong-looking. His helmet had a red, glowing visor like the eyes of a dragon. He moved like he belonged to the sea, fast, powerful, silent. He swam to the cage and stopped. She stared at him, heart racing. Was this another captor? Another slaver? But then, he pulled something from his belt, a small tool. He aimed it at the cage lock. A spark of blue light flashed, and the lock broke with a loud crack. The door swung open. He grabbed the ropes on her hands and cut them with a laser knife. Her arms floated weakly, then her legs. He pulled her out of the cage gently, like she was made of glass. She tried to speak, but only bubbles escaped her lips. The man pressed a button on his wrist. A small oxygen mask popped out and wrapped around her face. Air filled her lungs, and she coughed, but she was breathing again. He looked at her for a second, then pointed upward, with one arm around her waist. He swam back toward the surface, faster than any machine she had seen. Her eyes stayed locked on his face. On that red light, she didn't know him, but in that moment, he was the only thing in the world that wasn't trying to kill her. They broke through the water surface with a splash. The stars were clearer now. The burning ship was far in the distance. Sinking into smoke and flames, he dragged her to a hidden dock behind sharp rocks. There was a hatch in the wall, hard to see from outside. He opened it and pulled her inside. The place was warm, dimly lit, with old human tech on the walls. She collapsed on the floor, shivering. He knelt beside her and checked her pulse. Then, finally, he spoke. "You're safe now," he said. His voice calm but distant. She didn't understand the words, but the tone was kind. She tried to sit up, but her head was spinning. Her body was too tired, too broken. He placed a blanket around her and gave her a small metal cup. The water inside was warm. She sipped it slowly, carefully. The man walked to the control panel and tapped a few buttons. Screens lit up, showing sonar signals and flashing dots. He looked at the screen, and his face changed. One red dot was blinking, moving closer. A warning tone beeped in the room, soft but sharp. The girl looked at him, afraid. He looked back at her, then at the screen again. His hand moved to a lever on the wall. Lights dimmed to red. The voice from the speaker said just 2 words. "They're coming, *." He didn't have a name. Not anymore. Not since the war, now. Even the machines called him only one thing, Red Ghost. That's what the girl saw when she woke up. A tall figure standing near a red screen, a man in a black suit with a glowing red visor, smoke drifting from a small tool in his hand. He looked like a ghost. But he breathed like fire. Hot, controlled, dangerous, even in silence. He felt like a weapon that hadn't been fired yet. The girl blinked, slowly sitting up. She was still in the same hidden room, metal walls, old lights, humming machines. A soft bed now under her. Her clothes were dry, her wounds wrapped. She was alive. But nothing made sense. Why had this man saved her? Why did he risk his life for someone he didn't know? She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. He turned to her. Then held up a small disc, with a beep. A glowing screen floated between them. His voice came through the machine, soft but clear. "I know you can't understand me yet," he said, "but I'm trying to fix that." She tilted her head, watching him work. He tapped a few buttons, and the screen flickered. Now, the words on it shifted into her language, basic, but understandable. He nodded. "There," he said. "Now we can talk." She pulled the blanket tighter, her eyes full of questions. Who was he? What was this place? Why had he pulled her from the bottom of the sea when others wanted her dead? He turned away, walking to the corner of the room. There, on the wall, was a line of weapons, some old, some alien, all deadly. He picked up a black device and checked. The charge outside, the sonar beeped again, louder this time. "They'll come for you soon," he said, without looking at her. "Slavers, hunters, maybe worse. I've seen what they do." The girl spoke softly through the translator. "Why did you help me?" He paused, then finally answered, "Because I know what it feels like to be locked in a cage." His voice didn't shake, but something in his tone felt heavy, like it came from pain buried deep under years of silence. He placed the weapon on the table and sat across from her. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Kayla." He nodded. "Kayla," he repeated, "you're not cargo. You're not trash, and you're not going to die here." Kayla looked into his visor, wishing she could see his eyes, but the red light reflected her own face, tired, bruised, but alive. The alarms beeped faster now. A new red light blinked on the wall. A camera feed showed a ship descending from the sky, black and silver. Like a wasp, it didn't have markings, but it didn't need any. He knew the shape. Hunters from Sector 9, they didn't come to ask questions. They came to erase mistakes. Kayla stood slowly, legs shaking. "What do we do?" she asked. The man stood as well, pressing his hand to a panel on the wall. A hidden door slid open, revealing a lower chamber filled with gear, suits, and oxygen tanks. "You hide down there," he said. "I'll handle them." She looked at him, unsure. "You can't fight them alone." He gave a dry laugh. "I've been alone for years. This isn't the first time someone's come to kill me." He opened a metal case and pulled out something strange, an old Earth's weapon, a shotgun, rusty but powerful. He loaded it slowly, each click echoing in the quiet room. Kayla didn't move. She didn't want to hide again. She had just escaped one cage. She didn't want to crawl into another. "Then I'm staying too," she said. "I'll help." He turned toward her, visor glowing like fire. Then, slowly, he nodded. Outside, the ship landed on the rocks. 6 shadows moved toward the entrance stall. Armored, armed. They spoke in clicks and static, scanning the area inside. The red ghost and the girl with the glowing skin prepared for war. Not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. As the first metal foot hit the hatch, he raised the shotgun and whispered, "Let's show them what humans do when you push them too far." Kayla had seen humans before. They wore sharp uniforms, shouted orders, and smiled when others cried. They dragged people in chains and called it order. They traded lives like numbers, like nothing. So when this man said, "I'm human," she felt her chest tighten, not from fear, but confusion. He didn't feel like the others. He didn't treat her like an object. And when the fighting started, he didn't run. He stood in front of her. The hunters broke. Through the hatch with a blast, their armor hissed. Their weapons glowed blue. Kayla ducked behind the table, heart racing. The man-red ghost didn't hide. He stepped into the open and fired once. The old Earth shotgun roared like thunder underwater. The lead slug smashed through the first hunter's chest plate. The others growled in a strange language and returned fire. Red Ghost rolled, fired again, and ducked behind a wall. He moved. Like he had done this before many times, each shot he took was clean. Fast, deadly, but there were too many. Kayla's eyes burned as she looked for something to fight with. She found a stun rod on the floor and held it tight. Not strong, but better than nothing. One hunter leaped over the table toward her. Kayla screamed and jabbed the rod into its side. It twitched, sparked, and fell back, armor sizzling. She had never hurt anyone before. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't stop. Red Ghost turned, saw her standing there, eyes wide, fear mixing with courage. He didn't speak, but she saw something change in his body, like he was proud or surprised. The fight ended with smoke and sparks, bodies of metal, and flesh on the floor. The walls were scorched, the air thick with heat and blood. Kayla coughed, dropped the stun rod. Red Ghost leaned against the doorframe. Breathing hard, his suit was damaged, red lights blinking on his arm, but he was alive, so was she. They sat in silence for a long time, only the sound of broken machines. And dripping water filled the room. Then Kayla whispered, "Why did you really save me?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he opened a locker on the wall and pulled out an old photo. It showed a little girl, humans, miling next to a lake. Behind her, the same red visor sat on a bench. His helmet off, his face calm. "My daughter," he said, voice low. "She was taken by slavers. I searched every system, every outpost, never found her." Kayla looked at the photo, then at him for the first time. He took off his helmet. His face was scarred, eyes tired, jaw strong. But his eyes were human. And full of sadness. "I couldn't save her," he said, "but maybe I can save someone else." Kayla didn't know what to say. Her throat felt tight. She had hated humans all her life. Now one had saved her, fought for her, shared his pain with her. Maybe not all humans were monsters. He stood and walked to the control panel. Smoke cleared from the screen, and new signals flashed. "More ships in orbit, scanning, searching. They'll keep coming," he said. "You're not just a girl in a cage. You're something they're afraid of." Kayla stood too, her legs steadier now. "Then we don't hide," she said. "We find out why." Red Ghost smiled slightly. "You sound like a soldier." She shook her head. "No," she said. "I sound like someone who's tired of running." The room was quiet again, but the air had changed. They were no longer strangers, no longer prey, outside. The sea was still, but above it, the stars were moving. Something was coming, and this time, Kayla wouldn't face it in a cage. This time, she would fight. The galaxy has rules. And the hunters of Sector 9 were the ones paid to break them. They didn't ask questions. They didn't leave warnings. They came in silence and what they came for. They never left without. Now, they were coming for Kayla, not because she was a prisoner, but because she wasn't supposed to exist. In the cold dark above the ocean, 5 black ships slid through the clouds. Their hulls shimmered like shadows, invisible to radar. Their engines made no sound. Only a low hum that felt like a heartbeat in the air. Red Ghost stood on top of the cliff, helmet back on, watching the sky. His hand rested on the weapon at his side. Beside him, Kayla stood wrapped in a dark cloak, her eyes on the stars. "How many?" she asked. "Too many," he replied. They didn't need to guess who it was. The symbol painted on the ship's 3 silver lines over a red circle was enough. Sector 9, bounty hunters, trained by old empires. Loyal only to money. Kayla looked at him. "They know what I am, don't they?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he scanned her face through the visor. The way her skin glowed faintly under stress. The way machines seemed to glitch when she got too close. "You're not just a girl with a secret," he said. "You are." The secret. She wanted to ask more, but it was too late. The hunters were already landing. The battle didn't begin with noise. It began with silence. A sudden loss of signal. A blackout in the air. Their hidden base flickered lights cut. Systems dropped. Red Ghost grabbed Kella's wrist. "Move," he said. "Now." They ran down into the second tunnel, deeper into the rocks. A backup power core kicked on. Red emergency lights blinked. In the dark, Kayla could feel them machines. Crawling on the walls, invisible scanners reaching through the stone. The hunters were searching, and they were getting closer. Red Ghost activated a defense turret-hold tech, human-made, unreliable but better than nothing. "They won't talk to you," he said. "They'll just take you, rip you open, and send what's left back in a box." Kayla stopped running. "Why?" she asked, breath shaking. "What do they want from me?" He looked back at her, then opened a panel in the wall. Inside was a small container, locked and sealed with a biosignature. He pressed her hand to it. The container opened. Inside, a glowing crystal pulsed with blue light. Data flickered across. Its surface in a language neither of them spoke. Red Ghost stared. "They're not just hunting you," he said. "They're hunting what's in your blood. This thing is alive, it's bonded to you." Kayla stepped back. "I never asked for this. Nobody asks to be hunted," he replied. "But now you have a choice: run forever, or fight and make them bleed." Suddenly, a loud crash shook the tunnel. One of the hunters had broken through. It stood 10 feet tall, part machine, part beast. Glowing red eyes locked onto Kayla. "Target confirmed," it said. "Bounty." Tripled. Red Ghost raised his weapon. Kayla raised her hands. And for the first time, the light around her answered. A wave of blue energy pulsed from her skin. The hunter paused just for a second. It was enough. Red Ghost fired. Kayla screamed. The energy exploded outward. The walls cracked. The hunter flew back, smashed into the rock. Kayla stood still, hands trembling, eyes wide. She didn't know what she had done, but the hunter was downed and she was still standing. Red Ghost looked at her, amazed. "What the hell are you?" he asked. Kayla looked down at her glowing hands. "I don't know," she said, "but I think I'm done being afraid." The tunnel echoed with the sound of more footsteps, more hunters coming. But now, they weren't just chasing a girl. They were walking into something they didn't understand, and Kayla, whatever she was ready to fight back. Blood remembers, even when the mind forgets. Even when the body changes, blood holds the truth. Kayla didn't know her past, not fully, but her blood did. It sang when the hunters came. It pulsed with heat when she touched the crystal. It whispered secrets she couldn't yet understand. Now, deep inside the old shelter, Kayla stood in silence. Her hands still glowed faintly from the blast. The metal walls were scorched, the air heavy with smoke. One hunter lay dead at her feet. The others had backed off for now. Red Ghost watched her closely. Not as a prisoner, not as a child, but as something new, something powerful. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was becoming something else that wasn't a weapon, he said, nodding at the energy still fading from her skin. "That was you." Kayla turned to him, voice low. "I felt something, not pain, not fear. It felt like memory." She stepped closer to the crystal chamber. It still pulsed with soft blue light, A rhythm, like a heartbeat, like it was alive. Red Ghost opened his tool bag and connected an old scanner. He pointed it toward Kayla, then to the crystal. The screen lit up, faster than expected. Numbers, symbols, old alien code. His eyes widened. They match, he said. Asterisk, asterisk, your blood has the same code as this artifact. You're connected to it. Kayla touched the crystal gently. It flashed bright, sudden, and full of images. Not just pictures, memories, cities in the sky. Voices calling her name in a language she had never spoken. A war, a betrayal, and her being hidden, smuggled across stars. Placed in a cage to protect her from something worse. She gasped, stepped back, her legs shook. Red Ghost caught her. Helped her sit, she was shaking. Eyes wet, but not from fear, from something deeper. Recognition. I'm not just some girl they captured, she said slowly. I was never meant to be cargo. Asterisk, asterisk. I was meant to be kept safe, until it was time. He nodded slowly. Then, maybe this is the time. The scanner beeped again, this time with coordinates. A place deep in space, far from the slavers. Far from the hunters, a place where more answers waited, but also more danger. Kayla stood up, steadier now. Her voice clear. Asterisk, asterisk. We need to leave. Asterisk, asterisk. They won't stop hunting me. Not until I finish what they were afraid of. Red Ghost looked at her. Then back at the old ship hidden beneath the base. A rusted Earth-made vessel. Patched and rebuilt a dozen times. He had sworn he'd never fly again. But now, T felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. He placed a hand on the ship's. Sighed and looked at Kayla. All right, he said. Asterisk, asterisk, we leave tonight. But you should know whatever they put inside you. Whatever this thing is, it changed you. Kayla met his eyes. Then let them see what they made outside. The sea crashed against the rocks. Above, the hunters circled like vultures, waiting for weakness. But inside that dark cave, a new force was waking. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She wasn't just cargo, or a secret, or a mistake. She was a key. She was a threat. She was the beginning of something the galaxy had forgotten. And now, she was going home. Asterisk, the ship didn't roar when it launched. It groaned. Like something ancient waking from a long sleep, dust fell from the ceiling. Panels buzzed as old circuits sparked to life. Engines, long silent, began to breathe again. The darkness of the cave split open with fire. Kayla stood inside the cockpit. Eyes wide, she had never flown before, but somehow it didn't feel strange. The controls, though old and human, responded to her touch. Red Ghost sat beside her, hands moving fast across the console. This ship wasn't built for comfort, he said, but it was built to run. Outside, the hunters were already closing in, drones in the air. Black skimmers cutting across the waves. The moment they saw the ship rise, they opened fire. Red beams cracked against the rocks. Smoke and water filled the sky. But the ship, the Silver Ek, rose through it all, rattling, burning, alive. Kayla felt the vibration through her boots, but inside, she felt calm, not fear, not doubt. Something stronger like destiny was pulling her forward. The stars opened above them, and the sea fell behind. They were finally free. But freedom was only the first step. Hours later, in the silence of deep space, Kayla sat alone near the viewing deck. Her reflection stared back at her skin, glowing faintly, eyes sharper than before. She didn't recognize the girl she used to be. She wasn't trapped anymore, but she wasn't normal either. Red Ghost approached, holding 2 metal cups. He handed her one, recycled water. He said, "Not fancy, but it keeps you alive." She took it, smiled softly. "Thank you." They sat in silence for a while, watching distant stars drift by. Then she asked the question she had been holding in her chest. What is Firelight Station? Red Ghost leaned back, his voice quieter now. A place that shouldn't exist. Built by deserters, outlaws, old scientists who saw too much. They don't follow any empire, any law, but they have answers. Kayla nodded slowly. And they'll know what I am. He looked at her. They might, or they might try to cut you open and sell what they find. Either way, you'll know more than you do now. She looked down at her hands, still faintly glowing. Even now, then we keep going, she whispered. No. Matter what, as they neared the station, alarms lit the cockpit. A voice came through static. Cold, mechanical, unregistered ship. Identify yourself. Red Ghost sighed, flipped a switch. This is Ecto 1, he said. Requesting docking clearance under Code Red Iron 7. A long pause followed. Kayla held her breath. Then the voice returned. Softer now. Clearance accepted. But be warned, Echo 1. There are eyes watching. The station came into view. It was massive half-spaceport. Half-city floating in the dark like a broken crown. Lights flickered across its surface. Ships moved in quiet lines, but there was something off about it. Too quiet, too perfect. Red? Ghost narrowed his eyes. This place was never safe, he muttered. But now, it feels like a trap. Kayla felt it too. A pressure, a silence before the storm. The station might hold answers, but it would also test everything they had left. And something or someone was already waiting for her arrival, not to welcome her, but to end what she was becoming. There are two kinds of cages. The ones made of metal, and the ones built inside the mind. Kayla had escaped the first. Now she had to break the second. Firelight Station spun slowly in the dark. From a distance, it looked peaceful, just another outpost floating among stars, but inside its walls. Something was wrong. Too many guards, too many locked doors. Too many smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Kayla felt it the moment she stepped onto the deck. Not fear, but focus. The kind predators have before they strike. Red Ghost walked beside her, silent hand on his weapon. They were being watched by cameras, by drones, by something colder, deeper, unseen. A woman in silver armor greeted them. Her name was Captain Vera. Her voice was smooth, her face unreadable. She smiled when she looked at Kayla. We've been waiting for you, she said. You're very special, you know? Kayla didn't answer. But inside, her blood was starting to burn. They were led to a lab to clean. To quiet. Red Ghost didn't like it. Kayla didn't trust it. Inside, holograms floated. Her DNA, her energy spikes. Her every breath already recorded, already analyzed. Someone had prepared for her long before she arrived. An old man stepped forward, Dr. Yelrin. He looked kind, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. You carry more than memories, he said to Kayla. You carry design, intention, power that was locked away during a war most forgot. Kayla's hands clenched. Why me? He smiled sadly. Because you were born to end it. In the next room, Kayla saw the truth. Tubes filled with others, like her, but broken, frozen, asleep. Some were younger, some older, none awake. All failed experiments, all caged. Her chest tightened, tears burned behind her eyes. This wasn't about saving her. This was about control. They didn't want to protect what she was. They wanted to own it. You don't care who I am, Kayla whispered. You only care about what I can do. Dr. Yelrin didn't deny it. You're a key. Child, he said, a living weapon, and every weapon needs a handler. That was when the cage snapped. Not the one around her body, but the one around her fear. Kayla stepped forward, eyes glowing bright. The crystal inside her, the living code awakened. Her voice echoed with power. Then let this be the last time someone calls me cargo. The glass shattered. The power core exploded with light. Sirens screamed across the station. Red Ghost pulled his weapon, blasting through guards. Kayla moved beside him not as a girl running from fear, but as a storm walking into battle. Together, they fought their way to the docking bay. Drones fell, doors burst, fire burned through the halls. Dr. Yelrin tried to stop her one last time. "You can't control it," he shouted. "You'll destroy everything." Kayla turned to him with eyes like burning stars. "Good," she said. "Then maybe it will be rebuilt better." She reached the control panel and opened every cage, every locked door, every frozen chamber. Others like her began to wake, blinking into the light. She didn't need to lead them, she just needed to free them. And when the station began to collapse, she and Red Ghost didn't look back. They escaped in the silver echo, just as Firelight Station broke apart behind them, a symbol crashing. Down, a system crumbling, now in the quiet of space. Kayla sat in the co-pilot seat. No chains, no collar, no fear. Red Ghost looked over and asked, "What now?" Kayla looked at the stars ahead, her voice calm, strong. "We find the others, we burn every cage." And somewhere deep in the stars, something ancient stirred, because the girl who was thrown away as trash was now the spark that would light the fire forever.